At 18, Sean stood in front of me, shielding me from a knife-wielding thug. If you want someone, come after me. At 28, he shielded his mistress from my slap. Sophie is innocent. If you have a problem, take it out on me. I didn't argue. I calmly signed the divorce papers. Before I left, I told him, we're even now. 10 years ago, I was cornered in an alley by a thug. He pressed the tip of his knife against my collar and asked lecherously, "Are you going to take it off? Or should I cut it off?" It was my turn to be on duty that day. By the time I left, the area around the school was deserted. I clutched my backpack strap, contemplating the possibility of taking him down with me. In that moment of despair, a familiar voice called out from the alley's entrance, "Stop. If you want someone, come after me." The thug turned in surprise. As he did, the streetlight at the mouth of the alley finally broke through, illuminating my face. The tears I had held back in the face of the blade now streamed down my cheeks at the sound of Sean's voice. While the thug was distracted, Sean rushed over and pulled me behind him. "What kind of man bullies a girl? I'm telling you, I've already called the police. If you know what's good for you, get out of here." His own voice was trembling, but he stood firm in front of me. But the thug, instead of backing down, was enraged. He spat and sneered. "Oh, a hero saving the damsel in distress. I'll grant your wish today. You two can die together." In the next second, screams, fighting, and blood mingled together, piercing the sky. By the time I picked up a brick and knocked the assailant unconscious, Sean was lying on the ground, covered in blood. The sharp knife was still embedded in his abdomen. Later, Sean was taken away in an ambulance. The media eagerly reported his heroic act, hailing him as a young hero. But no amount of honor could change the fact that he had missed his college entrance exams. I was consumed with guilt. After his surgery, when he was moved from the ICU to a regular room, I stood by his bed, my eyes swollen from crying. He managed a weak smile. "What are you crying for?" "I'm a tough guy." I choked back a sob. "The exams are in a month. What are you going to do?" He tried to sound nonchalant. "I'll just repeat a year. My grades weren't great anyway. An extra year will give me a better shot at getting into your university." Though tears still clung to his eyelashes, a strange blush crept up my face. I bit my lip and asked the question that had been bothering me for a long time. "Why were you at the alley entrance that day?" I couldn't remember when it had started, but Sean and I had a habit of walking home together. But on days when I had to stay late, I would always tell him to go on without me. So I was surprised. I thought he had already left. Why had he come back? At my question, his face also turned red. We looked at each other like two fuzzy pink peaches. His eyes started around, not daring to meet mine. "Actually, every time you're on duty, I wait at the top of the stairs. When you go down, I follow you until you get home." His voice grew quieter as he spoke, as if embarrassed. "The area around the school isn't very safe, right? I was worried about you being alone, especially after staying late when no one is around." "See, my worries were justified. It's a good thing I was following you." I fell silent, looking down at him. Something inside my chest was slowly melting. Sean's gaze suddenly became resolute, and he looked up at me. "Chloe, it looks like I'll have to repeat a year. Will you wait for me? If I can get into the same university as you, will you be with me?" The answer was almost a given. I have said I do twice in my life, once at my wedding, and once in that hospital room. But I have always felt that the words spoken in the hospital room were far more sacred than the scripted lines at the wedding. A gentle breeze rustled the white curtains by the window. The moment I heard my own voice, I saw his eyes light up. So clear, so captivating. I could barely look at them. It was only natural for the 18-year-old me to fall for Sean. In high school, he sat behind me. He was lively and witty, the kind of boy who would banter with the teacher and make the whole class laugh. His humor, combined with his handsome, sunny looks, made him incredibly popular. I was his complete opposite. I was a quiet, shy teenager, focused only on my studies. I wasn't good at talking to people, so I had no friends. The thing people like me dreaded most was free time during gym class. Everyone else was in groups. The boys played basketball or soccer, and the girls chattered away. I could only sit on the side with a book, praying for the bell to ring. One day during gym class, I was, as usual, memorizing vocabulary. A shadow fell over me, blocking the light. I looked up. Sean was holding a basketball under his arm, a wide grin on his face. Chloe, let me teach you how to play. In the many sleepless nights after my divorce, I would often dream of this moment. The popular boy, walking over to a nobody like me. The sun was so hot that day. It made my face burn. I hid half my face behind my book and gave a small nod. Okay. After that, he taught me how to play during every gym class. The other boys teased him for choosing a girl over them. He would just raise an eyebrow, never denying it. And then, the stabbing incident happened, shaking the entire town. That year, I went to university in City A. The next year, Sean joined me. We got together. As expected, our classmates were envious, saying our story was like a fairy tale. And I thanked the heavens countless times for giving me a love that was mutual. A love that was deep and true from a young age. I never imagined that one day, I would receive a text from another girl. I found out about his affair 6 months after my miscarriage. When I first found out I was pregnant, Sean had urged me to quit my job. He frowned, his face full of disapproval. I make enough to support a family of 3. Why do you have to work so hard? But I wasn't willing. I had just been promoted to director, a new peak in my career. I was in the cosmetics industry, a fast-paced, ever-changing field, let alone quitting. Even taking a year of maternity leave would mean all my resources would become outdated. So I insisted on working while pregnant. Finally, one night while working late, I fainted on the side of the road. When I woke up, I was met with Sean's grim face. "The baby is gone," he said, his voice tight with suppressed anger. "Can't I provide for you? Can't I give you a good life? You had to keep pushing until you lost the baby." I clutched the white bedsheet, trying to keep my voice steady. "I am not your caged bird. I need my own career. I can tell you right now, even if I had known this would happen, I still wouldn't have quit." He looked as if a bucket of cold water had been thrown over him. He fell silent. After a long while, he buried his face in his hands, took a deep breath, and looked up, his eyes red. "Chloe, why couldn't you have just stayed the girl who read by herself on the playground? The lonely little girl who needed him to save her. Why?" I didn't know, but his attempt to use my past weakness to belittle my present strength infuriated me. I sneered. "If you like weak girls so much, you can go find one. After all, Sean, you can afford it." At the time, I thought it was just an angry outburst. I never thought it would one day come true. The intimate photos of Sophie and Sean were sent to me by her. The girl was nestled in his arms, her shoulders bare. Only a white sheet covered her body. Anyone could see what had happened. To be honest, after the miscarriage, our relationship had hit rock bottom. But I thought it was just because he disapproved of my choices. I never thought his heart would change. Sophie asked to meet, and I agreed. The air conditioning in the cafe was on full blast. She was wearing a loose t-shirt, her slender arms exposed. She was dressed very young. Or rather, she was very young. So the first thing I asked was, "You must still be in school, right?" Sophie smiled and nodded, unconsciously stirring her coffee. "That's right, Mrs. Fu. I'm still in college." I corrected her. "My name is Jiang. You can call me MS. Jiang." She let out a small laugh, as if she had heard something amusing. "I get it. A modern career woman, independent, doesn't want to be defined by her husband or as a mother. But if that's the case, why don't you just divorce him and free up the Mrs. title?" The young girl finally showed her claws. "You know, I came from a small town. My family is poor, so I have to work part-time. I met him one summer. I was handing out flyers in a heavy mascot costume and fainted from the heat. Everyone avoided me, afraid I was trying to scam them. Only he picked me up and took me to the hospital." As she spoke, her expression was full of adoration, lost in a sweet, girlish reverie. And I sat there, listening to a stranger express her admiration for my husband. In that moment, I thought, so he's a regular in the hero Sylvester Damsel story. But he wasn't just my hero. Sophie turned to look at me, her eyes filled with triumph. "We got to know each other. He told me his wife is a very strong woman, but he's always believed that a woman should be held in his palm, cherished and protected. MS. Jiang, do you hear that? You two are not a good match. If you're really as independent and clear-headed as you claim, you should let him go." I couldn't help but laugh. Did he ask you to come and see me? Sophie lifted her chin proudly. Of course not. He's such a kind person. He would never do something like that. I rested my head on my hand, my voice calm. Then have him come and talk to me himself. Getting together is a matter for two people. So is breaking up. There's no reason for an outsider to deliver the message. With that, I got up and left. Outside, the heat enveloped me. The stark contrast between the cold and hot made me shiver. I had wanted to tell her. You know, the first time he asked to teach me how to play basketball was also on a summer day. But from now on, I would no longer like summer. Sean did ask for a divorce. Because Sophie was pregnant. He looked troubled. Chloe, you know I grew up without a father. I know how hard it is for a single mother. How much judgment they face. I can't let my own child grow up without a father. I didn't push the papers away. I just demanded that he leave with nothing. The house, the cars, the money. I want it all. Sophie, who was standing by, exploded. What right do you? But he cut her off. His voice was full of guilt. I agree. After all, in the one who has wronged you. The lawyer redrafted the agreement. Sean signed it and handed it to me. As I was about to sign, Sophie couldn't resist a sarcastic remark. She deserves it. After all, isn't it hard for her to get pregnant again after the miscarriage? She'll need the money for her old age, with no one to take care of her. The tip of my pen faltered, leaving a black ink blot on the paper. I looked up, the color draining from my face. I never thought he would tell her about that. Sean's face was also grim. He told her to shut up. But she was young and defiant. The more she was told not to say something, the more she wanted to say it. Sophie stuck her neck out. Am I wrong? It's the truth. A woman who can't be a mother. What's the difference between her and a cripple? I trembled with rage and raised my hand to slap her. With a sharp smack, the blow landed on Sean's face. Sophie shrieked. How dare you hit him? I'm calling the police. Sean, does it hurt? It's all red. He shook his head and pulled her behind him, looking at me with a pained expression. I was wrong. I'm sorry, but Sophie is innocent. If you have a problem, take it out on me. The moment he said it, he froze, his face turning pale. I guess in that moment, we both thought of 10 years ago. The same words, the same person. But back then, he was standing in front of me, and all I could see was his broad back. Now, he was facing me, protecting another woman. My heart felt like it was being squeezed. I couldn't breathe. Through the miscarriage, the discovery of the affair, the conversation with Sophie, even signing the divorce papers, I hadn't shed a single tear. But in this moment, thinking of the 18-year-old Sean, my nose began to burn. Before my emotions could overflow, I signed my name. Before I left, I looked him in the eye and said, we're even now. 10 long years. One dead, one wounded. Sean, I don't owe you anything anymore. I didn't make a big deal about the divorce. But on his side, the day after we got the certificate, he started a grand display of affection. Intimate photos on social media, records of their meals and travels, every little detail. Some of the overly sentimental captions were clearly written by Sophie, using his phone. The young girl couldn't contain her need to show off. She wanted all his friends to know that he belonged to her now. Quinn was my friend. She disapproved of my not moving out, not getting rid of any of the old furniture. You need a change of scenery, or to get out and clear your head. Otherwise, you'll just be surrounded by painful memories. Look at this pillowcase. You got it on your honeymoon in Bali. Doesn't it make you sad to look at it? She grabbed a throw pillow from the sofa and pouted at me. I shook my head, my face calm. If you look at it enough, it stops being sad. What was that term? Desensitization therapy. It means injecting an allergen under the skin until the patient builds a tolerance. Though I still often thought of him when I saw certain objects. If I saw them enough, I would get used to it. Right. I don't like to run away. The more something hurts, the more I have to face it, until it becomes a habit, until the wound heals and no longer hurts. Quinn shook her head, her expression helpless. I don't know when you became so tough. I didn't answer. Actually, Sean had asked me the same question before. A few years ago, we went on a trip together. The train station exit had no escalator, only stairs. He turned to me and said, I'll take my suitcase down first, then come back for yours. But I shook my head, eager to try. No need. I can do it myself. I had been working out at the time. My thin arms already had visible muscle definition. A 40-pound suitcase was no longer a problem. Sean was taken aback, but said nothing. He just picked up his suitcase and walked down the stairs beside me. Another time, I was in the study, working late into the night. He came in with a glass of milk and hugged me from behind. "What are you working on?" I frowned at the computer. "I have a negotiation tomorrow." Enlisting the talking points. He rested his chin on my head and looked at the PowerPoint on the screen. "Do you want me to go with you?" He was a great talker, very skilled at socializing. In the past, whenever I had a difficult client, I would bring him along. As soon as he opened his mouth, almost every client would happily sign the contract. But this time, I refused. I turned and smiled at him. "No need. I've been taking public speaking and emotional intelligence classes to improve my social skills. This is a good chance to test them out." He looked at me with a complex expression, but at the time, buried in my work. I didn't notice his unusual silence. It was a long time before he spoke again. "I don't know when you became so tough." I turned and wrapped my arms around his neck, smiling sweetly. "To stand by your side. I don't want to be waiting at the top of the stairs for you to help me. I don't want to have to come to you with every problem. I want to grow with you." To me, those were words of love. But looking back now, they weren't for him. He probably preferred the little girl who needed to hide behind him, the one he had to shield from a knife. But what he didn't know was that even in that alley, my first thought was to take the attacker down with me. I never thought of surrendering. Chloe, was never the delicate flower he thought I was. Never. The news of my divorce somehow spread through the company. My boss called me in and assigned me a business trip. "Take this opportunity to get away and clear your head," she said, patting my shoulder. I lowered my head, hiding the confusion in my eyes. Why did everyone think divorce was such a painful thing? It was as if they assumed I would be heartbroken, unable to go on. But it was just a marriage. Just a man. However, I didn't refuse the assignment. It was related to the company's latest marketing goals. If I did well, I could get another promotion next quarter. When I got off the rickety old bus, the photography team and I stared at each other. "Are you sure this is the place? We're supposed to be helping people here." The assistant looked at the map app for a long time, then nodded wearily. "This is it." The plan for the event was this: work with the village committee to help local women with their problems, and at the end, give them a set of cosmetics. The whole experience would be filmed and posted online for publicity. Our first subject was Mrs. Liu, a migrant worker. She wanted to find the person who had introduced her to her job and thank them. Finding the person wasn't difficult. But when we sought help from the local police, we found out that the person was actually a shady agent. The salary paid by the boss had to go through her hands first. The actual salary was $3,000, but Mrs. Liu only received $1,500. The agent had recently been reported and was now in jail. The cameraman behind the lens couldn't help but curse. "Damn, that's so crooked." Taking half, the assistant turned to me, her expression blank. "Chloe, what do we do now?" A benefactor had turned into an enemy. Mrs. Liu would be disappointed. I closed my eyes and shook my head helplessly. "We'll have to tell her the truth." But when we told her, she was surprisingly calm. She even smiled. I already knew. I was stunned. "You already knew." She held up an old-fashioned mobile phone and showed it to me, her expression serene. "You know, miss, before, besides the $300 my husband gave me for groceries, I had no money of my own. I bought this phone after washing dishes for a month." Then she grinned, pointing to her silver teeth. Technology had advanced. Most people now had porcelain or resin teeth. Metal was cheaper but outdated. But Mrs. Liu showed no shame, instead showing them off to the camera. "And my teeth. They'd been hurting for over 20 years. When it hurt, it was unbearable. I couldn't eat or sleep. My husband wouldn't give me money to fix them, just told me to endure it. I had to save for 3 months before I dared to go to the clinic in town. It only cost a few hundred, for 20 years of pain." Recalling that painful time, her voice choked, and she became emotional. "Tell me, miss, shouldn't I thank that person?" Her question left me speechless for a long time. When I gave her the cosmetics, I whispered in her ear, "This is our company's new product. You can sell it online for a good price. You can sell it secretly later. I knew that what she needed most was not cosmetics, but cold, hard cash. Our second subject was a mother who wanted to find her runaway daughter. I raised her to 18, and then she ran away because she thought we were poor. You have to find her. Otherwise, I can't go on. The woman sat on the ground, slapping her thighs, looking like the victim of a great injustice. After we left, the cameraman was indignant. That daughter is so unfilial. Her family worked so hard to raise her, and she just runs away after her exams. The assistant and I exchanged a look but said nothing. He continued, "Even a dog doesn't despise its own poor home. What a waste to have raised her." "Actually, I think," I said suddenly, "the truth might not be what her mother said." The assistant immediately agreed. Yes, I think so too." The cameraman's complaint stopped abruptly. What? What do you mean?" I said. "Did you see the family photo on the wall? A couple and a boy. No daughter." The assistant added excitedly. "And the few awards on the wall were all for Pyeongchang. That doesn't sound like a girl's name." The cameraman looked horrified. "What does that mean?" "The mother is delusional. The daughter is a figment of her imagination." I rolled my eyes. "It means they favor the son over the daughter. The daughter probably ran away because she couldn't take it anymore." To find the truth, we went to Mrs. Liu to ask about the situation. But she had been working away for several years and didn't know much about the village. Just then, a woman shelling beans next door spoke up. "Are you talking about the old Ping family at the west end of the village?" We hurried over with the camera. The woman sighed. "Old Ping's daughter has had a hard life. He got into gambling debt and couldn't pay it back. So he wanted to sell his daughter to raise the money." I covered my mouth in shock. "Trafficking is illegal." The woman glanced at me and sighed again. "It's not like that. He was going to sell her to the son of Lim Ping-jung from the next village. Their family has had limps and pockmarks for generations, so they can't find wives. They have to offer a higher bride price. Nowadays, families aren't so greedy for that little bit of money and don't want their daughters to suffer. Only people like old Peng would do it." The assistant swallowed, and I could see the goosebumps on her arm. How much?" The woman finished shelling her beans, stood up, and held up 3 fingers. 30,000. After the gate closed, we stood on the road, stunned. Someone's monthly salary could buy another person's entire future. The cameraman said with a sense of relief, "It's a good thing we didn't find her. Otherwise, we would have done a terrible thing." The assistant turned to me. "Chloe, what do we do now?" I thought for a moment. "Let's just say we couldn't find her. This story is a bust. If we posted it online, it might expose the girl's whereabouts. It was best to pretend it never happened." I prayed in my heart. "Little fish, swim far away. As far as you can." I stayed in the village for 2 months. The sun and dust had made me look a mess. I didn't mind. I took photos and posted them on my social media. I felt that this was more worth preserving than a polished, white-collar life. However, not everyone agreed. Sean immediately commented, "Did the divorce drive you crazy?" Then he deleted it. The childish tone suggested it was Sophie. She had sent me friend requests many times, all of which I had ignored. These past few days, whenever I posted a photo of myself in the countryside, she would immediately use his account to post a glamorous photo of herself at a high-end restaurant. I had been around the block a few more times than her. I knew what she was doing. She just wanted to show me that her life was better than mine, that he loved her more. But she didn't know that I no longer cared. She was the only one still holding on. A few minutes later, he sent me a private message. "Sophie is young and doesn't know any better. Please forgive her." I just glanced at it and deleted the chat. I went back to filming. Soon after, we returned to the company. We edited the stories and posted them online. To our surprise, they caused a huge stir. Not only did each story get over 1 million likes, but our product also became a top seller. This unprecedented success even caught the attention of the CEO. She promoted me to the head of the Asia-Pacific region. At the celebration dinner, I was the center of attention. Glasses clinked. Toasts were made. The same influential people who were usually fawned over now toasted me with deference. My gorgeous gown fanned out behind me like a warrior's cape. In that moment, I didn't care if he loved me or what loving photos Sophie had posted. So when I took out my phone on the way home and saw his wedding announcement, I felt nothing. Quinn sent me a voice message, laughing. No one even liked their wedding announcement. I heard Sophie was furious. Hilarious. Who would like a post about a second marriage to a homewrecker? I just pretended I didn't see it. I raised an eyebrow and posted a knife photo collage from the celebration dinner. The mutual friends who had been silent on his post suddenly came alive. Likes and comments poured in. My girl Chloe is a powerhouse. OMG. You're a real-life leading lady. Is that the new Dior couture? Even A-list celebrities can't get their hands on it. So beautiful. Quinn was even more sarcastic. Some men don't understand why a woman gets a promotion right after leaving them. It's because you were holding her back. You're a jinx. I couldn't help but laugh at that one. Apparently, I wasn't the only one who saw it. He did too. He sent me an angry private message. Chloe, do you find this amusing? He thought I had told our mutual friends not to like his post. But faced with his accusation, I miraculously felt no desire to defend myself. I went to his profile and, surprisingly, found that all the glamorous photos Sophie had posted were gone. He must have been triggered after finding out the truth about my trip to the countryside. I chuckled and clicked unfriend. Why bother with such people? A waste of time. The invitation to their wedding was passed to me through a classmate. I glanced at it and threw it in the trash. Later, a classmate who had been a groomsman complained to me. I've never seen anyone so stingy. A bunch of us old classmates took time off to help, and they didn't even have a table for us. While the other guests were eating, they just gave us a few packs of crackers and a bottle of water. I was surprised. He wasn't usually so petty. It was that Sophie who arranged it, he said, his expression disgusted. Ever since she found out we were the same group of groomsmen and bridesmaids from your wedding, she's been giving us the cold shoulder. It was their big day, so we couldn't complain to him. We just left. I should have listened to Quinn. A second marriage to a homewrecker really is bad luck. He looked dejected, full of regret. I just sat there, smiling and shaking my head. It was just another funny story that had nothing to do with me. After the promotion, work became even busier. I buried myself in it and didn't hear anything about them for a long time. Until 6 months later, I saw Sophie downstairs from my office. To be honest, at first, I didn't even recognize her. Her face was haggard, her body rail thin. Was this the same triumphant Sophie from before? When she saw me, she gave an awkward smile. Ms. Jiang, can I buy you a coffee? It was the same cafe. I stirred my coffee, my voice calm. What is it? Just say it. A flicker of daze crossed her face. But the next second, she covered her face and started to sob. Ms. Jiang, I was wrong. Please help me. I stopped stirring and looked up at her. Actually, I wasn't really pregnant. I just wanted to force him to divorce you. At that moment, I finally understood the feeling of unease I had when I first saw her. By now, her belly should have been quite large, but it was completely flat. I thought, we could just make it official later. But I never expected. She cried even harder. He has a low sperm count. My hand trembled, and coffee spilled onto the table. What did you say? A low sperm count not only makes it difficult to conceive, but also increases the risk of miscarriage. Could it be that back then, it wasn't my fault? Sophie nodded, choking back sobs. It's true. We went to the hospital for several checkups. After he found out, he started drinking all the time and would just stare at old photos of you two. I couldn't take it and had a fight with him. And then he wanted to divorce me. She grabbed my hand desperately. Ms. Jiang, you know I'm just a student from the countryside. I dropped out of school after I married him. I have no education, no connections. If we divorce, I won't be able to support myself. I suppressed my emotions and pulled my hand away. How do you want me to help you? She said excitedly. Didn't you have that program to help women? You even helped those old women in the countryside. It wouldn't be a big deal for you to get me a job at your company, right? Besides, I heard you're the head of the Asia-Pacific region now. Please. Ms. Jiang. I'll kneel. I'll kowtow to you. She started to get up from her chair, ready to kneel. I stopped her. No need. As she looked at me with hopeful eyes, I threw a bucket of cold water on her. I have no obligation to help you. Besides, you brought all of this on yourself. Being a mistress, faking a pregnancy, and the short-sighted decision to drop out of school. She had pushed herself into this corner, step by step. I didn't want to waste any more time with her and got up to leave. no matter how hysterically she cursed me from behind. I didn't look back. The moment I pushed the door open, a smile suddenly appeared on my face. Passers-by stared in horror at a well-dressed woman laughing uncontrollably in the street. Laughing and then clutching her stomach, tears streaming down her face. So, when the doctor had said it would be difficult to get pregnant again, he had been talking about Sean, not me. We just hadn't understood the hint. Not long after, Quinn told me he had gotten divorced. Her eyes were filled with schadenfreude. I told you he was a jinx. So young and already on his third marriage. I was working on a document and smiled without looking up. I don't care how many times he gets married, as long as he doesn't come after me again. I never thought that the very next day, I would see him downstairs from my apartment. He was leaning against his car, smoking. When he saw me, he immediately put it out and forced a smile, as if nothing had ever happened. Chloe. I pretended not to see him and started to walk away, but he blocked my path. His voice was urgent, his face pleading. Chloe, let's talk. Give me one more chance. After all I had been through, it was rare for me to be so amused that I laughed. This was an exception. I let out a few cold laughs. What's there to talk about? Your salary, which is lower than mine, your third marriage, or your low sperm count. His pride trampled. His face turned a mixture of green and white. Chloe, how can you say that to me? I was exasperated. You were the one who disgusted me first. Now move. I shoved him aside and got into my car. He let out a pained ouch and bent over, clutching his abdomen. It was where he had been stabbed for me. 10 years later, a raised scar remained. In the past, whenever we fought and neither of us would back down, he would pretend the old wound was acting up. And, even though I knew he was faking, I would always give in, my heart aching. It was what I owed him. I couldn't help it. But this time, I just looked at him coldly through the car window, unable to summon a single shred of pity. After all, when he was sleeping with her, he hadn't considered my feelings. Seeing my indifference, he finally, slowly, looked up. That scar was his last resort. And now he finally realized that I would not come back. His eyes were filled with disbelief, his voice trembling. Chloe, are you really leaving me? His answer was the exhaust from my departing car. When I signed the divorce papers, I had told him we were even. And even means a clean break. No turning back. I spoke to the property management. The owner of the apartment was now just me. He was a visitor and was not allowed in without my permission. The security in high-end complexes was always good. I never saw him downstairs again. When home didn't work, he tried the office. One day, the front desk called. Ms. Jiang. There's a Mr. Fu here to see you. My voice was ice cold. Throw him out. But the receptionist stammered. Ms. Jiang. Maybe you should come down and see. A bad feeling crept over me. Sure enough, when I got to the first floor, a crowd had gathered in the lobby. He was wearing a suit and tie, the same one from our wedding. He had dark circles under his eyes and looked haggard. The custom-made suit, which used to fit him perfectly, now hung loosely on him. In the middle of the lobby was a giant bouquet of roses. By my estimation, probably 999 of them. When he saw me, his eyes lit up. Chloe. He started to walk toward me, but before he could get close, 2 tall bodyguards blocked his path. I waved my hand. They each took one of his arms and dragged him out. It was raining outside. He was soaked to the bone. A pathetic sight. His eyes filled with disbelief at my cruelty. I suddenly found it rather funny. Not his sorry state, but that he was like a boy in a toy store, who, upon seeing a new toy, discards the old one. And then, when he gets tired of the new one, wants to pick up the old one and take it to the checkout. Unfortunately, love is not a toy store, and I would not be waiting on a shelf for him to come back. I said to the onlookers, from now on, if you see this man in the company, for any reason, call security and have him thrown out. The person who reports him gets 1,000 yuan reward. The crowd was silent for a few seconds, then erupted in cheers. They even looked at the man in the rain, eager to try. With these cheers for me, I went in my private elevator and up to my top floor office. He pestered me for a while. He even bothered our mutual friends, begging them to put in a good word for him, but no one would talk to him. Dejected, he started drinking every day. The next time I heard of him, it was news of a new girlfriend. He was at a bar, and someone was harassing a singer, trying to get her to drink with them. He stood up for her, said she was his girlfriend, and the guy backed off. The girl was so moved. She pursued him, and they got together a few days later. My friend had a strange expression on his face. He looked at me and said in a complicated tone, "Chloe, to be honest, the singer looks a lot like you." Me, a little nauseating. And that wasn't the only nauseating thing. He started a life of womanizing. He would change girlfriends every few months, sometimes even every few days. And they all looked a bit like me. I would often get friend requests from strangers, with messages like, "Are you Chloe? My boyfriend keeps saying your name in his sleep." I would roll my eyes and decline. But I also found it a little funny. Are all men like this? They don't cherish what they have, and then they pretend to be devoted after they lose it. Or is it just him? At our 10-year class reunion, everyone tacitly agreed not to invite him. As the food was being served, the waitress who came in kept her head down, as if she didn't want to be seen. But I recognized her immediately. It was Sophie. It made sense. She had no education, no connections. To stay in City A, she had to do menial work. After she left, a classmate who had seen their photos on social media asked excitedly, "Hey, wasn't that?" I hesitated for a moment, then slowly shook my head. It was probably just a lookalike. I changed the subject, and we moved on. As I said before, getting entangled with some people is just a waste of time. That night, after the reunion, I had a dream. It was the familiar sports field. I was sitting on the side, memorizing vocabulary. The 18-year-old Sean walked over with a basketball. The boy's smile was brighter than the sun. "Chloe, let me teach you how to play." In my dream, I looked up, gave him a polite smile, and said, "Thank you." But no. After that, I never dreamed of him again. A few years later, I became the president of a branch company. HR carefully selected a secretary for me. The girl stood before me, her smile bright. She said, "Hello, Ms. Jiang. My name is Penny." I looked down at her resume. The moment I saw her former name, Ping Zhaodi, I looked up sharply. Penny smiled. "Ms. Jiang, I finally made it to you. Remember the runaway girl I met while filming in the countryside?" I had visited her high school teacher and learned her story. When she was 12, her father had wanted her to drop out of school to work and support the family. Though young, she did not resign herself to her fate. She went to the local women's federation for help. She successfully bluffed her parents by telling them it was illegal not to complete the 9 years of compulsory education. She was a top student, always first in her grade. Her teachers couldn't bear to see such a bright student's potential wasted. They paid for her high school education out of their own pockets. She ran away after her college entrance exams. Besides her teachers, no one knew where she had gone. After returning to City A, I would send 20,000 yuan to that high school every year. I asked them to forward it to her. I said, "Don't tell me where she is. The fewer people who know, the safer she is. Just tell her to study hard. And if she can, to come and find me on her own. I'll be waiting for her in City A." It was a casual remark at the time. I never thought it would become a reality. Penny took a letter from her bag and handed it to me. "And, Mrs. Liu asked me to tell you, she got a divorce, moved to the county town with her daughter, and their life is much better now." My eyes misted over. I pointed to the name Ken on her file. San, as in brilliant, a good name. In this world, at every moment, countless women are completing their own journeys. And one day, we will all submit our best work. And then we will meet. And then we will shine.